I want a divorce. This was the third time Ryan had said that to me. The first time was because I forgot to get his Tom Ford suit dry cleaned. The second time was because I questioned why he bought his intern Jenna a birthday gift from Tiffany's. This time it was because I stopped paying the maxed-out American Express bill for his sister Ashlyn. I calmly signed my name on the prenuptial agreement, the very document he had handed me when he proposed, and began to systematically cut all ties. On the first day, I called Chris at Coldwell Banker to list the Lincoln Park condo we bought 2 years ago but never once renovated. On the second day, I logged onto my Chase bank account, canceled the automatic $3,000 monthly transfer to Ryan. Money he claimed was to help with his grandmother's senior living community fees, and froze the supplementary credit card I had given Ashlyn. On the third day, I called my brother Mark and booked a flight to Denver. As the United flight landed at Denver International Airport, a curious thought crossed my mind. Without me, his ever-compliant, on-demand ATM and free life manager, how exactly was Ryan going to support his short-tempered grandmother, his spoiled rotten sister, and that office intern who always seemed to need his help? Chloe, if you're sure you want to sell, just sign here. Chris, the real estate agent, handed me the listing agreement. He was the same agent who sold us this high-ceiling condo 2 years ago. I took the pen, gave one last look around the space I once thought would be our home, and signed my name. You can price it below market value. I need to sell it as quickly as possible. Chris hesitated, looking like he wanted to say something. I knew what he was thinking too. Years ago, I walked in here holding Ryan's arm, excitedly pointing at the empty spaces, describing how we would turn this place into our forever home. 2 years had passed. Chris had gone from a rookie agent to a top seller, and this place was still just a concrete shell. Everything fell apart because of that damn jigsaw puzzle. Last week, Ryan was home with the flu. I took time off to take care of him, running around until my own blood sugar crashed. Feeling dizzy, I reached out to steady myself against a bookshelf, and that's when it happened. The Disney Centennial puzzle he cherished so much, sitting on the top shelf, came crashing down. The metal edge of the frame sliced a deep gash in my arm. The moment my blood spattered across the glass, Ryan rushed in. His first reaction was to drop down and inspect the puzzle. God, Chloe, can't you be more careful? Look what you've done. I just had this framed last week. I clutched my bleeding arm, my face pale. Ryan didn't even glance at me, too busy wiping the glass. I need to go to the emergency room, I said, my voice trembling. He waved a dismissive hand, his eyes still fixed on the puzzle. Whatever. I sat in the back of an Uber, pressing a towel to the wound, and went to the Northwestern Memorial ER by myself. I needed 18 stitches. When I got home, the door was deadbolt. I knocked, I texted, I called. My phone showed message not delivered. He had blocked me. The September wind from Lake Michigan whipped through the hallway in Chicago. Dressed in thin loungewear, I sat outside our apartment door for 4 hours. No response from Ryan ever came. Not until I was scrolling through Instagram and saw a story from Jenna, the intern in his department. She and Ryan were at Gibson's Steakhouse downtown. In her arms she was holding the very same framed puzzle that had been stained with my blood just hours earlier. She was smiling brightly. The caption read, "My boss put together this Disney Centennial puzzle himself." I only mentioned it once and he remembered. #best mentor, #work perks. Ryan had commented below, "Glad you like it." Jenna replied with a hug emoji. I stared at the post, remembering how last month Ryan had brought home a Starbucks drink for me, a rare gesture I was so foolishly touched by, thinking he was finally learning. The drink was a mango dragon fruit refresher. I am severely allergic to mangoes. In the 7 years we were together, he never remembered. I casually mentioned she liked Disney puzzles last month and he remembered. I ended up in the ER 3 times because of my allergy, and he still bought me a mango drink. Enough. This was truly enough. The moment I walked in the door, a message from Ryan popped up. Ashlyn is having her birthday party tonight at 7. Clean up beforehand. Get a charcuterie board from Whole Foods and some red wine from Trader Joe's. Friends from Lincoln Park are picky. This was Ryan's version of extending an olive branch, always from a position of power, delivering a "you're forgiven" message disguised as a command. As if he wasn't the one who blocked me and locked me out of my own home just days ago. The old me would have immediately started cleaning, decorating, and preparing. Today, I just glanced at the phone and tossed it aside. I was halfway through packing my suitcase when the door swung open. "Don't worry, I'm sure Chloe has everything ready. She's so whipped by my bro." Ashlyn's voice died in her throat. I continued folding my clothes, imagining the look of shock and annoyance on her face. Not only was the apartment not decorated for a party, but it was also slightly messy from my absence over the past few days. My phone rang the next second. Ashlyn stormed into the bedroom, glaring at me. "Chloe, what the hell? Don't you know I have a party tonight?" I placed a folded sweater in my suitcase and looked up at her calmly. For years, her private university tuition, living expenses to Europe, and designer bags, all of it was paid for by my salary. She had a closet full of Louis Vuittons I couldn't even afford for myself. When she complained that my Venmo transfers were too slow, I gave her a supplementary card for my American Express account. 7 years of my generosity, and in return she referred to me in front of her friends as "that whipped Chloe." I know, I said so. Her voice shot up. The living room looks like it's been robbed. My friends will be here any minute. This is my and your brother's apartment, I said, my tone flat. It's not your private clubhouse. Is there a problem? She was stunned, clearly not used to me speaking to her this way. Her friends behind her exchanged awkward glances. Ashlyn, maybe we should just do this another time, one of the girls whispered. Ashlyn's face turned crimson. She shot me a venomous look. Let's go. We'll go to Taco Bell, my treat. It's better than dealing with this bitchy attitude. The door slammed shut behind them. I picked up my phone, opened the Chase app, and froze Ashlyn's supplementary card. Since that whipped Chloe was no longer at her service, there was no reason for my money to be either. I locked the doors and went to bed early that night. In the middle of the night, a thunderous pounding on my bedroom door jolted me awake. I opened the door frowning. Ashlyn stood there. What is your problem, Chloe? Why did you cancel my card? Do you have any idea how embarrassing it was when my card was declined at Olive Garden? Suppressing the rage of being woken up, I stared at her coldly. Let's be clear. That is my card. Why the hell should I be paying for you? For years I've supported your brother, supported you, and supported your grandmother. Don't you get it? What right do you have to stand here and scream at me? Ashlyn was speechless, her face flushed with anger. Fine, I'll just have my brother divorce you. She slammed the guest room door. The world went quiet, but my sleepiness had vanished. I picked up my phone. An unread email, a payment reminder from Sunrise Senior Living. The next automatic payment was in 7 days. It was their grandmother, who insisted on moving into this facility, which cost $5,000 a month. My after-tax monthly salary was just over $8,000. Ryan never contributed to household expenses. The grandmother had threatened to sue us for emotional elder abuse, a new term she picked up at a legal seminar at the facility. She even left a business card for the community's elder rights lawyer on the dining table. I had looked up Illinois state law. While her case was weak, the legal fees and damage to my reputation from a lawsuit would be astronomical. I had no choice but to give in. The remaining $3,000 of my salary had to cover the mortgage, HOA fees, daily expenses, and Ashlyn's spending. Ryan's salary? That was for his personal investments and networking. He hadn't contributed a single penny to our home. Thinking back, I was the only one in the entire family living on a tight budget. I logged into my bank's website, canceled the automatic payment, and marked the email from the senior living community as spam. This family of leeches could find someone else to suck dry. The next afternoon, while I was handling my resignation and handover at work, Ryan called. Ashlyn told me you yelled at her and canceled her card. When did you become so cruel? She's my sister. What's the big deal if she spends a little of your money? Haven't we been good to you? Go apologize to Ashlyn right now and transfer her $5,000 for spending money, or I'm filing for divorce. I rolled my eyes. Ryan, she's your sister, not mine. Why should my money endlessly support an outsider who calls me whipped? On that note, when are you coming back? There's something I need to talk to you about. There was a pause on the other end. He seemed surprised by my firmness. Soon, his impatience returned. Is it about renovating that stupid condo again? I don't get it. What's wrong with living with family where we can all support each other? Why waste all that money? I'm telling you, go apologize to my sister first, or we're not talking about anything. He hung up. Listening to the dial tone, my heart sank. He had really forgotten the night he proposed on top of the Ferris wheel. He had said so sincerely, Chloe, when we're married, we'll buy our own condo. You'll have full control over the renovation. I'll give you the perfect home. We did buy the place, but the renovation was delayed again and again. The first year he said he was too busy with work to supervise the contractors and told me to wait. The second year he said cash flow was tight and we should wait until our finances were better. I believed him time after time. Now that home would never exist, and neither would we. Over the next few days, I focused on drawing my boundaries. I didn't contact Ryan, and naturally he didn't reach out to me. It wasn't until the evening before our scheduled court date that he sent a message. Had too much to drink at the celebration dinner. Come get me. That's how I found out he was back from his business trip. I didn't want to go, but thinking about what needed to be done tomorrow, I grabbed my car keys. When I arrived at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse downtown, I saw Ryan standing on the curb. He was acting drunk, his arm draped over Jenna's shoulder, leaning his whole body against her. The male colleagues waiting for an Uber nearby were all perfectly sober. When he saw my car, Ryan guided Jenna into the back seat. He rubbed his temples. "Take her home first. I'm dizzy, just going to lean here for a bit." I laughed coldly to myself. The perfect excuse to rest his head on his female colleague's shoulder in my car. Jenna glanced at me in the rearview mirror and smiled graciously. "Chloe, don't get the wrong idea. Ryan's really drunk. Thanks for the ride." I smiled back. "No trouble at all, but next time you're with a man this drunk, it's better to just leave him be. Calling his own Uber doesn't cost much, and it's better than standing out in the cold, right?" Jenna's smile froze on her face. After Jenna got out of the car, the silence was deafening. The neon lights of Chicago flashed outside, the skyscrapers receding behind us. In that moment, it felt like 7 years of memories were being left behind too. I pulled into our building's parking garage, put the car in park, and looked at Ryan in the rearview mirror. "Ryan, we need to talk." He stirred, rubbing his eyes with annoyance. "Talk about what? Did you apologize to Ashlyn and send her the money like I told you to?" I took a deep breath, exhausted. "I'm trying to have a serious conversation with you. Can you please just..." Before I could finish, his phone rang. Ryan glanced at the screen and his expression changed dramatically. He got out of the car, circled to the driver's side, and yanked my arm to pull me out. "What are you doing?" I cried out as my high heel twisted, a sharp pain shooting through my ankle. Ryan didn't even look at me. He jumped into the driver's seat. "Jenna said she feels like she's being followed. She's scared. I have to go check on her." I steadied myself against the car, the pain in my ankle mixing with the cold dread in my heart. It was also absurd. I let out a cold laugh. "Ryan, use your brain for a second. How long has it been since she got out of the car? She's not home yet? Her apartment is in the completely opposite direction from ours. You think she can get to you faster than she can call 911? Ryan looked at me in disbelief, as if I were some kind of cold-hearted monster. Enough, he seemed to have found his breaking point, glaring at me. "You just want to force me to renovate that stupid condo, don't you? Well, I won't, and I still want a divorce. Are you happy now?" He floored the gas pedal and sped away, leaving me in a cloud of exhaust fumes. I stood there, my ankle throbbing, my heart feeling dead and calm. That night, I called my brother Mark in Denver and told him everything that had happened over the past few weeks. On the other end of the line, Mark's voice trembled with anger, which eventually softened into gentle comfort. "You did the right thing. Come home. I'm here waiting for you." Home. Yes, I still had a home, a real home. At that thought, my eyes welled up, and the strength I had been holding on to crumbled. Soon I would be free from all of this. The next morning, I took out the prenup agreement that Ryan had already signed. He'd given it to me when he proposed. Back then, a confident Ryan had told me, "Chloe, this is my promise to you. This prenup states that if our marriage ends because I cheat or am found to be at major fault, I will voluntarily give up all our shared property. I'll walk away with just the suitcase I came with. Please trust me." I chose to believe him then, thinking that agreement would stay locked away in a safe forever. Now it was my escape route. I signed both copies of the agreement and went to Ryan's office. At the front desk, I happened to overhear him talking about me to a colleague, his tone condescending. "A guy like me has to draw the line early with women like Chloe. You buy her one Starbucks and next thing you know she's demanding a Tiffany diamond ring. That condo is her dream home. I just kept telling her the market for renovations isn't great right now, or let's wait until we find a reliable contractor. 2 years of stalling and guess what? We saved 80 grand. Someone asked, "But dude, what if she actually files for divorce?" Ryan made an exaggerated face of confusion. "Sue me with what money? After her student loans, her salary is peanuts. And honestly, what real man would want a divorced woman in her 30s? She'll be back before Christmas, crying about how hard it is to be single." Listening to all this, I felt a strange sense of calm. I placed the document folder on the front desk. "Please give this to Ryan Davis." "Thank you." That afternoon, I boarded a flight home. As soon as I landed, a call from Ryan came through. He was roaring. "Are you insane, Chloe? Why didn't you pay my grandmother's senior living fees? She almost got kicked out. Do you know that if something happens to her we're completely screwed? Pay the bill right now, immediately, or we're really getting a divorce." I listened to his tirade as I walked towards Mark, who was waving at me from a distance. "As you wish. We are already divorced." The line went quiet. Not the quiet of someone thinking, the quiet of someone who has heard something that doesn't fit the shape of reality they've been living in and needs a moment to process the mismatch. Then he hung up. I looked at my phone. The call ended screen. The small notification of duration, 4 minutes and 31 seconds. 7 years of marriage summarized in 4 minutes and 31 seconds of him yelling about his grandmother's rent while I walked through an airport toward my brother. I put the phone in my pocket. Mark was already waving from 20 feet away. Flannel shirt, one hand raised, the specific expression he gets when he's trying to look casual while actually being very worried. I walked toward him. "You look terrible," he said. "I feel terrible. But you're here." "I'm here." He hugged me. Both arms, the full thing, none of the half-hug hesitation that people do when they're unsure of the situation. Just held on. Didn't ask about Ryan. Didn't say anything about the divorce, the prenup, the grandmother, the condo, the puzzle with my blood on it. Just held on. I let him. We stood there in the arrivals hall with people flowing around us until my breathing evened out and the tightness in my chest loosened slightly. One of those airport workers with a cart said "excuse me" twice before we moved. Mark grabbed my bag. We walked to the car. Outside it was cold in the specific way Denver is cold, dry and clear, not the lake wind cold I'd lived with for 7 years, different in a way I couldn't articulate but felt immediately. He didn't turn on the radio. We drove in silence for a while. "Are you hungry?" he asked eventually. "Starving," I said. "I haven't eaten since yesterday morning." He took an exit I didn't recognize. Pulled into the parking lot of a Thai place that looked like it had been there since 1987 and hadn't updated anything, which is usually a good sign. We ate pad see ew and spring rolls and didn't talk about Ryan at all. It was the best meal I'd had in years. 3 days later. I know what was happening in Chicago during those 3 days because Ryan's behavior is predictable in the way that weather patterns are predictable. You can see them forming on the radar before they arrive. I can reconstruct it from the texts I received before I blocked the number and the things I heard later through mutual acquaintances who didn't understand they were feeding me information. The condo, without me in it, became what it had always been underneath the surface, a construction project someone stopped caring about halfway through. The kitchen was a mess. The living room had the quality of a space nobody actually lived in, all those surfaces that had been mine to maintain suddenly just being surfaces. He called. I watched my phone register the call and set it back down. He texted. "I'll change. I promise." I read it. Deleted it. Not out of anger, out of the same reflexive accuracy you apply when you're sorting mail. Junk goes in the trash. He called again. I blocked the number. Not with ceremony. Not with the satisfaction people imagine in these moments. Just blocked. The way you close a browser tab when you're done with it. The grandmother called him on day 4. I know this because Ashlyn later told someone who eventually reached me. In the indirect way information travels through social networks. The call was, by all accounts, spectacular. Ryan had never set up the automatic payment himself. He had never logged into the senior living facilities portal. He had never verified the account or provided a backup payment method or done any of the administrative work of keeping another human being housed. That had been my department, along with the mortgage, the HOA fees, the utilities, the insurance, the grocery deliveries, and the maintenance requests he sent me as forwarded emails with no additional context except "can you deal with this?" The facility owed $15,000 in back payments. He had approximately $800 in his checking account. His credit cards were at 65% capacity, his own spending, the networking dinners, the Tiffany bracelet for Jenna, the subscriptions he maintained for professional credibility in circles that required a certain appearance of success. He called the senior living facility. The woman on the phone was not unkind, in the way that people who work in these facilities learn to deliver bad news, practical, professional, without editorializing. The account was overdue. Without payment, they would need to begin the transition process. He said he would fix it. He did not fix it. Ashlyn came home to an empty refrigerator and a declined card. The card had been on my American Express account, which I had closed 3 days after leaving Chicago. I'd called the number on the back, gone through the automated verification, and spoken to a representative named Sandra who processed the closure while I was sitting on Mark's couch eating cereal and watching a documentary about deep-sea fish. Sandra confirmed the closure. I thanked her. She thanked me. It was very civilized. Ashlyn's card stopped working at a Sephora in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, which is roughly the most architecturally appropriate venue for this particular form of comeuppance. Her friends were with her. The card declined twice. A helpful employee suggested she try a different card. She did not have a different card. She went home. Ryan was sitting on the couch that nobody had cleaned in a week. She told him about the card. He told her Chloe had canceled it. She told him to give her his card. He checked his wallet and looked at her with the expression of someone doing arithmetic that isn't working out. I don't have it, Ashlyn. I don't have anything. The silence that followed was, by any measure, a long time coming. You're completely useless, she said. You know that? Completely. She left. He sat on the couch. Jenna. I thought about Jenna sometimes in those first weeks in Denver. Not with hatred, I'd spent enough of my marriage being quietly furious about Jenna to have exhausted most of that reserve. More with the clinical interest of someone running a postmortem. She had been, to give her credit, very consistent. She liked what Ryan represented, the senior colleague who could open doors, who had good taste in restaurants, who remembered small details she mentioned in passing. She didn't like Ryan particularly. She liked the infrastructure around him, which had been built and maintained almost entirely by me. He went to her when Ashlyn left. She was at her desk when he came in, typing something, phone propped against her monitor. He said they needed to talk. She looked up with the expression of someone who has already decided how this conversation is going to go. There is no us, Ryan. Chloe left me. That's not my problem. This is where I imagine the expression on his face changed, not to anger, but to something more confused. He had, somewhere in the architecture of his beliefs, constructed a version of events where Jenna's attention meant something permanent. Where the puzzle and the Gibson steakhouse and the Instagram post were the beginning of something rather than the side effect of something he was providing. I thought you cared about me. I cared about the free dinners and the gifts. She picked up her phone. Walked away. He stood at her desk looking at the chair she'd vacated and tried to locate the version of reality where this wasn't what it looked like. He couldn't find it. The real estate agent called him 2 weeks after I left. The condo had sold. Quickly, because I'd priced it below market, which Chris the agent had hesitated about but ultimately processed correctly. The Chicago market absorbed it in 11 days. The proceeds went to my account per the prenuptial agreement, which Ryan had drafted in his own favor and signed with the confidence of a man who was certain he would never need it weaponized against him. The document he handed me at our engagement with his chest out, saying this is my promise to you. It was a very good promise, as it turned out. Just not for him. Ryan's share, under the terms, accounted for the period when he'd been a co-owner. Which, given that he had never made a single mortgage payment, corresponded to a very small percentage. He called the agent back. The agent read him the relevant clauses. He walked through the empty condo afterward. I imagine this vividly, the high ceilings we'd never done anything with, the kitchen that was still the original 1990s fixtures, all the potential that I'd imagined on that first walk through, holding his arm, pointing at the bare walls and seeing something that was never going to exist. The puzzle was still on the wall. The Disney Centennial, framed in glass, the glass I'd cut my arm on, the same puzzle that had gone to Gibson's Steakhouse while I was getting 18 stitches at Northwestern Memorial. He took it down. Threw it in the trash. I don't know what he felt when he did that. I genuinely don't know. I try not to construct an inner life for him that he might not have had. What I know is, it ended up in a trash can in an empty condo that was no longer his, and somewhere in that trajectory is the summary of everything. Mark's apartment was a 2-bedroom that had the characteristic warmth of a space inhabited by someone who actually cooks and owns too many books. He cleared the 2nd bedroom, put clean sheets on the bed, left a stack of towels on the dresser. On the nightstand, a glass of water and a phone charger, which is exactly what you need at the end of a 7-hour travel day that followed a 7-year marriage. I slept 10 hours the first night. Longer than I'd slept in years. The second night, I started on the consulting business. Not because I'd planned it. Not because I had a strategy. Just because lying in bed staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning, I opened my laptop and started writing down what I was good at. Operations management. Budget analysis. Vendor negotiations. Crisis communication. The specific skills of someone who had spent 4 years running a marketing department at a mid-sized firm and the preceding 3 years effectively running a household and supporting 2 additional adults and 1 demanding grandmother on a salary that was mostly consumed by other people's needs. The list was longer than I expected. I started making calls the following week. Former colleagues who had landed at different companies. A client contact who had moved to Denver 18 months prior and had mentioned during an airport layover conversation that her new employer was looking for operational consultants. An old business school professor who had offered, years ago, at a wine reception for alumni, that if I ever went independent he'd put me in touch with people. I had avoided independent work for 7 years because Ryan found it destabilizing. He liked predictability in my income. He liked knowing the number. Now the number was mine to determine. Mark made dinner every night for the first month. He would not accept any payment for this and deflected any argument with an efficiency that suggested he had anticipated the argument and prepared countermeasures. He cooked things I'd forgotten I liked, the green chicken curry our mother used to make, the specific pasta shape with the specific sauce from a recipe he'd found at some point in his 20s and had been making ever since, the omelets he did on weekend mornings with whatever was left in the fridge. One Tuesday night, midway through a bowl of soup, I started crying. Not dramatically. Just the quiet, persistent kind that starts without warning and runs its course. I don't even know what this is about, I said. I'm not sad about him. You don't have to be sad about him to cry, Mark said. 7 years is a long time to be wrong about someone. That was, I thought, exactly right. The crying stopped after a while. We finished the soup. He did the dishes without making a thing of it. I said, I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out. 3 months in. A number I didn't recognize. I answered because the area code was Denver and I was expecting a call from a potential client. Chloe. I knew the voice. Thinner. Something in it that hadn't been there before. What happened, Ryan? I lost my job. I hadn't known this. I'd stopped following his trajectory deliberately, not because it was painful, but because it was irrelevant, and maintaining awareness of irrelevant things costs energy I was spending elsewhere. The company found out about the divorce. About the situation with Jenna. They had a morality clause in my contract. They let me go 2 weeks ago. A pause. I have no savings, Chloe. I never had any savings. I have nowhere to go. Ashlyn won't take me in. My grandmother is in a state facility. I have nothing. I sat with that for a moment. Ryan, do you remember sitting outside our apartment for 4 hours? I had a towel pressed to my arm. I was in thin clothes. I texted you. I called you. You had blocked me. Yes. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Chloe. You were at Gibson's Steakhouse. With Jenna. The puzzle that had my blood on it was in her arms and you were both smiling and she posted it and you commented on the post. I kept my voice even. You were there while I was outside in the September wind from the lake. I made a mistake. I know I made a mistake, no. This was the thing I needed to get right. You made a choice. Every day. You chose how you spent your money and your time and your attention. You chose your sister and your grandmother and your career and Jenna. You chose those things consistently, every day, for 7 years. That's not a mistake. That's a preference. Chloe, I hope you find stability, I said. I genuinely do. But I'm not the place to look for it. I hung up. I blocked the number. I sat for a moment and noticed that I felt nothing in particular. Not satisfied, not sad, not vindicated. Just, finished. The way a document feels when it's signed and filed. Complete. 1 year later. The consulting business had 3 ongoing clients and 2 contract employees. Small, not impressive by the metrics I'd measured everything against during the Ryan years, when I was trying to justify my salary against the household expenses he never contributed to. But profitable. Mine. I had a 2-bedroom apartment on the 4th floor of a building in Capitol Hill with a balcony that faced west and got the sunset every clear evening. I'd furnished it slowly, buying one piece at a time, with the specific pleasure of someone choosing things for themselves without consulting anyone. Mark told me about Ryan without editorializing. Hardware store in a suburb he named. Studio apartment, roommate situation. I nodded. Ashlyn had moved to Phoenix, someone said. New boyfriend, new circumstances. The grandmother was still in the state facility, which had a waiting list and an institutional smell and visiting hours on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Nobody visited. I held all of this information and noticed I felt nothing in particular about any of it. Not happiness at his reversal. Not guilt about her. Just the flat recognition of facts, the way you acknowledge whether. He had made choices. They had outcomes. So had I. That evening, Mark came over. We were sitting on the balcony. The sun was finishing its transit behind the mountains, that specific moment when the sky goes 3 different colors at once and the city below stops looking like itself and becomes briefly something larger. He handed me a mug of tea. Are you okay? He asked. I am. Really? Really? I looked at the sky. For the first time in a long time. Really? He sat down beside me. Didn't say anything else. Just sat there in the way that people who love you correctly know how to sit, present, unhurried, not needing the silence to be filled. I thought about the condo. The high ceilings. The renovation that never happened. The puzzle on the wall. The Uber to the emergency room, my hand pressed to a towel, watching the Chicago lights through the window, alone. Then I stopped thinking about it. The tea was hot. The sky was doing something extraordinary. Somewhere below, the city was making its usual sounds, traffic, wind, the accumulated ordinary evidence of people living their lives. I sipped the tea. I loved him for 7 years. I paid for 7 years. I divorced him in 1 day. Now he has debt. I have peace. It's not revenge. It's just, enough. Finally.